it's opening the doors to more left-handed matches because I think that's Wall has to go that way.
Right. That logic is sound too.
Yeah.
I feel like with a lot of the guys coming into the league, and aside from Danny Tesh, it seems like a lot of people have struggled with the WAL setup and the goes and fouls. I think that definitely will play a factor for sure.
Yeah, there's also a conspiracy where maybe they're trying to keep left out of it so Gabi doesn't make it on a card one day because Gabi's left under 165 is a bad fucking arm. I'm just kidding.
Hey, you would be great for it, man. You would be great.
I think I'd be better as a fucking ref. You'd probably see a fist fight or a couple
I know
pushing.
You've been lobbying for the ref thing. I like that too.
Yeah.
But I don't know. If you're reffing strict like that, rigid, that might throw everything off.
You'd be fired in about half a match. You'd see fade to black, and you turn the screen comes back on, and Bart Wood's standing back up there.
cops in the background hauling some guy off in the back exit. Yeah, I just think it'd be good for. It's good to see. Like even in WWE at one point, you had refs get into it with you'd have like Stone Cold Steve Austin as a ref. So sometimes you want to see altercations between a ref and an athlete, where the ref holds his ground. And I think it's not the end of the world if the ref and tells the puller to shut the fuck up, and the puller doesn't like that, and there's a little bit of jockeying, and I don't know. I don't think it's the worst thing.
I've seen it. I've heard Bart do that. He's like, grabbed a hold of the guy and said, "Look, here's how it is."
Yeah.
But it's entertaining.
Yeah, for sure, it's entertaining.
We got a couple good ones in the feed, and Paul Linn, for you, do you believe Ryan Bowen's side pressure is good enough now to give you a tough match?
Don't you dare say yes. Don't you fucking dare say yes.
I think the guy's improved. Okay, for sure. Listen, the bottom 8 thing that happened, regardless of how that ended up, we had a lot of people who were disbelievers of Ryan who changed their tune. I spoke to Evan a little bit, about it and everything. And do I think that the side pressure improved enough for it to necessarily change the outcome? I don't know about that. I don't gauge my side pressure, but he's definitely most certainly improved. So it's hard for me to say, but I feel confident where I'm at right now.
Good. I'll take that answer.
I've been.
I'll put that through the Gabi translation filter. No fucking way. I know you can't say no fucking way, but if you can say no fucking way, you'd say no fucking way. Yes, he did improve, but what did he do? He beat 157-pound Gabi with his weak arm. He beat a drunken Evan who, because he was a crowd favorite, he made some tactical mistakes and bled his own arm out. And then he beat Guerrera, who was a one-dimensional puller and avoided side pressure. So yes, he's made leaps. And I've had to come and say that I was wrong about him, and he's made great strides forward. However, I still don't think he's ready for. I think you're a pretty good candidate to even tackle RVJ, only because you have a decent hand. But what's missing in a lot of those 198 dudes is just straight side pressure to give RVJ a tough match, because no one's taking his hand. They're gonna have to deal with his arm. Todd Hutchins coming down to a catch weight can do it. Right. Other than that, Brendan, all these guys are hand heavy and don't have the arm. And of course Ryan Bowen would have no chance. But I think you're one guy that I think has the arm, and it's not like your hand is terrible where Rob can top roll your hand. He's gonna have to deal with your arm, and I think you have the arm to make it one hell of a good match.
Well, I don't. Largely, I found it. That usually the path of least resistance is to go outside, especially in tournaments. But when it comes to really where my strength is definitely inside. But I very rarely do it unless it's a heavier man who wants to go there. So yeah, my issue with that, and there's no hiding it, is the initiation of it. And I spoke to you about it before, Gabi. Yeah. I'm not, just my confidence level with initiation of a hook on the positive side is not that of Craig Toulier's.
Yeah.
So, but when I get there. Usually in the middle weights, if I get there even at this position,
you're good.
I feel fine with a cup.
Yeah.
So
the problem against Rob, you can't hang out there with Rob.
Nope.
You'll have to go. Match will have to go to strap. And the problem with most guys at high hook or have a decent hand is they never have to force containment. So it's hard to say to someone, well, this is how you force a hook, when the guy rarely ever has to force the hook. Right. I've been forcing the hook for 15 years, so it's second nature to me. But with a couple tweaks and some good strap training, I think you can give Rob one hell of a match. I think you're the only one, aside from Todd coming down, that can give him one hell of a match. Will we see it? I don't know, but I know that everyone else is a notch below all of you.
Well, I think I train with Storm, and I go up there at least every other week, and he is despite having some personal issues lately, he is super strong, and he is getting more comfortable with our training, with being inside too, and he's becoming very, very formidable inside. Yeah.
So I predicted he was going to beat RVJ, and when he lost to RVJ in the fashion that he lost to RVJ, I was shocked. The Storm has his hand is absolute iron. His wrist is amazing. His strap game's good, and he's got a good arm. It's not like he has a light arm. He's got a wickedly strong arm. Just got to give Rob just came in crazy strong that day.
Right.
But, yeah.
Well, what do you guys think of that match in the final then? RVJ's title match.
Justin, yeah.
Yeah, Bama Bull.
Yeah.
How do you think it's going to go?
Go ahead, Paul.
Go ahead, Paul.
I want to see it. I want to see it be a war. I'm sure Justin's training really, really hard. I think he steals a match. I think he's clever enough. I think he's good enough in the setup. I think he steals a match. I would like to see it go down to the wire. But I guess I would think in order for it to be really close, Rob would have to be not taking it seriously. I have not pulled Justin, so I cannot really say. I fooled around a little bit on the table with Rob, and I know exactly how strong he is. And that at that point, he probably wasn't fully trained up. So the guy is pretty much in control of wins and losses based on his own work ethic, I think. So wherever he's at mentally, commitment-wise, he's largely in control of the outcome.
That's an interesting comment.
Mm-hmm.
He might be, maybe he takes it a little bit lightly, you think?
I don't know. I mean, look at it. He had the hammer match, I don't even how many months ago, 4 or 5 months ago. So it's been a while. So the real question is, what has he been doing? They haven't announced that match to him. They hadn't announced it to him until right when they put it out to everybody. So basically, he has 4 weeks to train, and then we have to look back and say, all right, well, what has he been doing in the previous 12 weeks or 18 weeks? We don't necessarily know. If he has been training at the same level he was training for his first match with Craig, I mean, he's in the driver's seat all day. Now, if he slacked off at all, and now he's just trying to play catch up, then maybe it could be interesting. But I think what he did in the past 4 weeks and what he does in the next 4 weeks is going to be totally the deciding factor, I think.
I love the match, actually. I think I love an underdog match.
Right.
It's I think it's going to be entertaining, and I think it'll be a good match. But I think I could be completely out to lunch here, and Gobby probably thinks I am this time around. That and it'll be a blowout. But
you're both fucking nuts. For this match to be close, Justin needs 6 to 8 months to get up to a walk around weight of 195, 200. 4 weeks isn't going to do it. I love Justin. He always speaks his mind. He fucking backs up everything he says. He fears no one. I love the guy. But he's a 185 guy going against a 205-pound thoroughbred. He needs his pronation. He's not going to get his pronation. And if he does, it's going to be brief. Now, you make a good point, both of you, talking about RVJ coming in slightly, taking Justin lightly. RVJ did that a couple years ago versus Kenny Smith and got beaten bad in a hook. Since then, I think he was embarrassed. And since then, we haven't seen RVJ come in soft in anything. And I think I'm going to take the other route, and I think not only is he not going to take him soft, he's going to come in to try to destroy him, mock him, and show what the disparity is between him and the next toughest guy compared to every other weight class, to show that he is Wall's #1 puller overall, pound for pound, the best athlete on their card. And I think he's going to make a statement with Justin. And I love Justin, but this is like, they're kind of not in the same weight class in my mind, unless Justin can put on 20, 25 pounds. Paul walks around at 215, and I think he can make a great match at 205. Justin's walking around at 185, 182, 187, I don't know, but he's a very lean, hand-heavy puller that can't rely on that defensive hook, and he's not going to take RVJ's hand. He's not going to get everything he wants in the strap, and he might get on his side of the table, but that won't be enough because Rob will get it to the arm.
Right.
I mean, we saw Justin pull Storm, and he got ate up. Do you see him beating RVJ after that? I mean, RVJ played with Storm. Storm played with Justin. I mean, I love Justin, but I just think this is the biggest match in that guy's fucking career, and I hope he makes it a match. But he's got to come in. It's got to be like a 12-1 underdog. It's got to be pretty drastic.
So I do think he walks around a little bit bigger.
Does he? Okay.
I will say the first match with Justin and Storm, there was a point in that match in the first like 3 to 5 seconds where it was really in the balance. And at that point, I was actually really impressed by Justin's hand.
He's got a great hand.
Yes.
Great hand.
Right. So, and from everybody that I talked to said he's absolutely like clever, definitely in the setup, especially with changing angles, like his high IQ puller. Yeah. So I'm like I said, I'm thinking that he can make it a match. I'm the same way. I'm like you. I love underdog. You know, I want to root for the guy for sure.
Yeah.
You know, just at least make it a match. But you're 100% right. Rob's so gifted. You know, the fact that he can be as large as he is at 205. You know, he's legit. The guy's legitimately like 205 and under.
Yeah.
And he looks like he's 230.
Yeah. I just think I play the match in my head. So Justin takes the initiative with the hit. Takes Rob a couple inches to hit to Justin's side. Maybe RVJ rises and goes to straps. Maybe it doesn't go to strap. Worst case scenario, RVJ hooks him late, and then it's game over. Maybe Justin will burn himself up, holding that attacking hook, burn himself out, try to get his shoulder behind it, and Rob will just wait him out and drain him. Or Rob will just swing him across and do the same thing to him and drain him. But all I know is when they're both wrist to wrist and eventually go wrist to wrist, strap or out of strap, Justin's tank is fading a lot quicker than RVJ's because of the weight disparity and the fact that Justin's not a defensive grinding hook puller. He's a hand dominant. Now he's got great side pressure. It's not like he doesn't have an arm. It's just he's going up against a man with no weak link. Rob's weak link used to be his mind and his strap game. His strap game is still teetering, but it's stronger than it was, and his mind is no longer weak. You cannot exploit his weakness. There are two guys I think under 220 that can beat him, or really 210, and it's you. Well, to give him a good match, and there's Herman Stevens if Herman ever fucking if he ever gets lean enough because he's sitting at like 240 or whatever. But if Herman wants to come down, Herman and you both have the tools to give him one hell of a match and potentially beat him. I don't see anyone else doing it.
All right, boys. I'm going to clean up this our feed here. I just want to throw a few things quickly out there. When was the last time Wagner competed? We don't know. Is he the one that broke Michael Todd's left arm? Well, it happened during that match. Yes, that's true. They should put Wagner against Travis. Yeah, they should, but Travis and WAL aren't getting along very well right now. Should Press beat Kings? Well, it depends. Devin may be hurt. Well, yeah, his right arm apparently is hurt.
Right arm. Yeah, right.
Yeah. Let's see here if there's any questions as I scroll through here. Any of you guys planning to make it out to 506? I don't know, Paul. Are you planning on going out and being in attendance?
I wish. Football season is like my downtime. I struggle with everything arm wrestling during football season. I still find a way to practice and I still find a way to train. But making events, especially just as a spectator, is almost impossible.
Okay, here's one thing, and I don't know how much you're willing to talk about this, Paul. I'm willing to talk about it myself. Till Bronze, and he's been asking this for a little while because there's a lot of misconceptions out there. I wish someone would go over rights and obligations and signing all the waivers and releases with WAL. For me, it was a waiver, and the only stipulation is that I could not compete on TV in the United States for a different organization. That was it. I was free to do whatever I wanted beyond that. I know that it's different for just about every arm wrestler. So, Paul, do you want to comment on yours at all? You don't have to if you don't want to.
No, I mean, it's basically, so it was a 5-year contract. And it stated just that you can't, I couldn't be televised. So it looked like that the protection of it was mainly for BR Live or whatever broadcast company they're using. So it was anything that was being broadcasted through any major like media platform or that was for another organization. But in the contract it says, and in the waiver or whatever you want to call it, it says that they encourage you to compete elsewhere, and go support blah blah blah. They would ask that that you don't make bad decisions during the season or whatever. But it was very. I had a lawyer look over it and he was like, "Yeah, this is standard stuff. Unless you have a better option out there, go ahead and sign it." So that's about the amount of thought I put into it. And then, you know, what's ironic and like, you know, I don't know if I think Travis might have talked about it is, you know, as that was happening for me, that big tournament out there in Vegas or whatever was brewing. You know, the one that never took fruition. You know,
Yes.
So you know, that was something that I was like thinking about. I had to think about for a second, and in my head, it's, you know, I'm not that much concerned about restricting myself. I know a lot of other people have different thoughts for sure. I know Herman is way against it. And I see his perspective 100% too. And I think when you do sign a contract, especially a 5-year one, you know, there's some major implications. But I have had no issues thus far. Like if I want to pull for pound with Ryan, I have no issue with that. So yeah, I was still cleared to go out to the NAL finals with Travis. So no issues as of yet.
Yeah, and even the old, like I found the old contract to be a little bit more restrictive, and even the UAL contract used to be quite restrictive, but
right.
The current one is not that big of a deal.
I think the first generation of the Elite Series, and I could be wrong, I think actually had a guaranteed pay amount, which was something that I don't believe mine had. Like, you know, okay, you're guaranteed over the next course of however many years to make, you know, $20,000. Or, you know, the finals, like a hammer match is this amount of money. But that, I think, was the first generation, and that's only hearsay but I know that's not in mine.
Right. Here's one for you. This is a good question. I have not seen this one come up ever in our show. Jim Gautieri, I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing that, guys. Can either of them explain, I hope he means all three of us, their mentality the day of a big match / tournament? Taming that energy can be draining if not managed right. Just curious how they mentally approach a big match.
Jim's one of the Philly guys. So I met Jim fairly recently. They got a new club started up in Philly. Philly never had any arm wrestling. And now I think they got about 20, 25 members, kids and everything. So they're doing awesome things. I think he has a boxing background. The guy who started the league out there is heavily affiliated with like police and law enforcement boxing clubs. So it's kind of an interesting deal. And they've had some tournaments like in like a local boxing association. So I went to some little small things, but it's fun. But yeah, Jim's a great guy. As far as the question goes, like preparation for a big tournament, I think I learned a lesson with the last WAL that I have to be 100% focused on that specific match, that specific tournament, that specific puller, and it has to start 8 weeks out. So basically the mentality towards that is, you know, my diet, my training, pretty much my whole life routine is built around that. And then the mental aspect before the match is huge for me, and that goes back to sports and football and everything. And, you know, I just try to basically do the same thing I would do before a football game, which basically is music and meditation for up to 4 hours beforehand. And then getting yourself working up to that crescendo that you're going to need through visualization and just basically mental focus and working yourself up to that point of adrenaline before the match. So I think it's a tricky balance. For me, it's been tricky to get that adrenaline up, but still be able to be as clear-minded and as focused needed to be able to execute at the table, especially if I have a specific game plan. So I'm still working on that, but I think my last outing was the most focused I've trained, and it is the most focused I've competed.
I actually used to go to a sports psychologist to work on the day of the event type stuff, visualization, and I would always adrenaline dump before the match, and I would just work on the meditation and the visualization of kind of being able to bottle that in until I was at the table and then step on the gas. And then in a tournament setting, especially, be able to withdraw from that a little bit until I got called up again. So it takes a lot of practice, and the nerves never really go away. You just need to learn how to manage them.
Mm-hmm.
Gabi, no comment?
No, it's a great question. I'm not a great guy to answer this because I fuck this up all the time. I'm an introvert, and social interaction drains me. And I love sometimes going to a tournament. I mean, Mike Gould used to have this 2-day tournament where first day was amateur, and I'd go and talk to support my teammates that were pulling novice and amateur, and everyone would talk to me, and I'd talk to everyone. And the next day I'd show up 4 hours early, and by the time I got to the table, physically I felt good, but mentally I was so fucking drained. I could not consume enough caffeine to get myself back up. So now I always thought that if I really had this huge match and I absolutely need to perform, I'd get a hotel, watch TV, close my phone until an hour out, go get to the tournament, warm up, and pull. Although I've never done that, because hanging out with fucking arm wrestlers and talking shit is for me is just as valuable as, I don't know, it's pretty much why we arm wrestle to a certain degree. So to quarantine myself off for a day or two and not be able to support my guys or root for arm wrestlers or just go and watch guys pull, would kind of be counterproductive. But I can tell you that last year when I went to Michigan State, I drove through the night. I got there early enough to sleep, but I started, adrenals started going, and I couldn't sleep. I show up, I weigh in, and then I try to go take a nap in my car. It doesn't happen. So by the time the pulling starts, I have maybe 1,200 milligrams of caffeine in me. I got 1,400 milligrams of ibuprofen because my elbows were bothering me leading up, and I have trouble keeping my eyes open, and we're still an hour out from pulling. And I'm thinking to myself, I should just go to Steve and tell him I'm going to pull my name out because I feel like absolute horse shit, and either I'm going to have a bad day or I'm going to hurt myself. But I said, fuck it, I'm here. And what happened was, I know my adrenals were bled out, and I get to the table and fatigued, and of course I figure I'm going to go 2 and out, and I set up. The ref says ready, go. I think my first match was against Dan Blanchard, and it's snap, hook, go. And I realized that no matter how shitty I feel, and no matter how poor I feel, my body's always going to do, and my body's always going to do what it's trained to do. After 15 years, my body's made to do everything perfectly. If I get no long hook match, I think I could fade, because you're just when you're mentally fatigued and your body's fatigued and you haven't slept, you will eventually lose a little bit of the conditioning and you will fade out quicker than otherwise. But in terms of getting my move, being super vigilant on the setup, all the little micro details, because I've done it and I only have one fucking move and one approach to arm wrestling, everything just snaps into place. And I was fortunate there were no good hook pullers in my class to give me a good hook match. They were all rollers, which I was able to contain. But I know that if there was enough money on a match and I actually had to win, like I said, I'd get a hotel, shut the phone off. For me, I don't know about meditation, but I just put on some comedy or some light comedy series and sit back, nap, and just not interact with anyone. That's what I would need to do, because I usually go into tournaments mentally drained, always.